believe that. All the variables. So anytime that you went to school and the government told you that the Earth goes around the sun, that's technically just one reference frame in the Einsteinian model, which there are infinite reference frames. So,
Well, you don't need relativity to sense and experience the Earth's rotation and curve.
so where do I experience the Earth's rotation at?
You can do that when you shoot a sniper bullet about 1,000 yards.
You really believe that? All the variables, and you think that at 1,000 yards you can detect missing someone by a couple inches because of Earth's rotation.
Yeah, you can demonstrate it.
Okay.
Yeah, you can
You can
demonstrate
see
it
the
with
difference
targets.
in weight. You can measure
You can see
difference
the-
in weight.
You can see the differences in the grouping of the bullets. You can use the exact same gun, exact same scope. If you shoot it west, you get one grouping. You shoot it east, you get another grouping, and it matches up perfectly with a curve and a rotation.
That's not how the Coriolis effect works. You would have to be shooting north or south. East or
Well,
west.
it's actually the Eötvös effect. It's related to Coriolis. Coriolis is slightly different. Yeah, but north and south, you get the same thing. You get a little left and a little right.
Thank you. Look, this flat top is special. I have one just like it. And
Okay,
But
man.
the east and west is better because if you just go straight east and straight west, one goes high and one goes low. Every time, same gun, perfectly level shot, same scope, same settings.
You're still shilling.
Yeah, there's a lot of debate about the Coriolis effect with the long-range riflemen saying that they've never used Coriolis whatsoever. I mean, you can debate about who you believe, but
That's fine. They don't
what it
have
comes
to
down
use it, but you can demonstrate it. Is the point? You don't have to use it because it's one of the smallest factors in your shot, like the wind and the spin drift of the bullet and all sorts of things play a way bigger factor. So it's something that's basically
Right.
negligible. You can ignore it and
Wait a
still
minute.
pull your shot off a lot of the times, but you can also demonstrate it. You don't have to use it. If your error of margin is, if you're just, it might make the difference between hitting them in the heart and hitting them in the shoulder, and a lot of snipers, a lot of the best snipers are the best because they get in close enough and they're not shooting from 2 miles away. Most of their shots, a lot of their kills are from much closer than that. And also a lot of their shots aren't the first one. They shoot and they hit a little high and they go, oh, I got to go a little down.
Well, then how do you know, how would they know that all those other things that are going to overwhelm whatever the Coriolis effect would have on it? How do you know that's not the reason the guy got shot in the shoulder?
Well, exactly. So that's why that's the last thing that they factor basically is.
Well, then how can they demonstrate
effects? You can demonstrate it on a range is what I'm saying. You don't need long range snipers who are in the field with the target. That's what I'm telling you. You set up a target.
All the spin drift and all those other things can be a factor that are overwhelming your results as well there.
No, because it's consistent regardless. It's in different variables, different weather, different wind. If you go east versus west, there's a predictable difference up and down.
They're okay. Wait, now we're talking about what you said, the Atmos effect, and we're talking about maybe the ether wind and all these other things that we're saying that could account for what they're calibrating for, right? That difference is something that is a motion that's transformed, that's a transitive effect from whatever's moving the stars. I mean, that's the claim on the flat Earth side. Is that
well, I mean, you could just say that, but you don't actually have you don't have a working model for that. What you have is a perfect match with the sphere and the rotation, and it's built right into the apps that the long range ballistics companies sell along with their ammunition and their scopes. You've got training, like I can show you a video of a guy who's like he fields calls from customers for these scopes that he sells, and the customers are going, hey, I zeroed in my scope at this range and then I went to another range and it wasn't zeroed in and I'm having this error. What's going on? And he's explaining, yeah, you have to count for what direction you're shooting if you want to get absolutely precise, and here's how it works. And it works here's our app, latitude, longitude, direction you're shooting. It'll tell you exactly how much to adjust, and it works all over the globe. You don't have that with ether winds and things like that. So why just like Antarctica, it's just another point in my direction. It's like the sun in Antarctica makes sense on the globe. The movement of the bullet makes sense on the globe. You have to invent things for why those things are happening, and I don't. Like, I've got an explanation that's perfect for all this stuff, and you don't.
But if you're being completely objective, right? If we are on a stationary level Earth, right? all of these things that we detect, like the Atmos effect or whatever it is that's causing that east to west or west to east drift, right? That they have to correct for. They're gonna have an answer for it because they need to give an explanation for it if that's happening, even if we're on a stationary Earth. And if they reverse engineer the globe model and there's an obvious 24-hour sun in that area in Antarctica, then that's going to be worked into the reverse engineered model. That's why you have to objectively say, of course, they'd have an answer for it because that's what the globe model would be. If they had to create something that matched all the observations and then make a reason for it, but just because you like the story doesn't make it any more true.
Well, the thing is that they already had the story. The story was that we're on a globe that's tilted 23.4 degrees, and they had that locked down. And then they went to Antarctica and saw the 24-hour sun and go, oh, that matches perfectly with the story we already had. So it's not like a post hoc. You're having to do a post hoc scramble to explain what we saw down there, and I don't.
Wait,
And the same thing. It's like we already had the story of the curve and the rotation, and then we see what's happening with the bullets, and we go, oh, that perfectly matches the story. We're not doing a post hoc rationalization. You're having to do that. Oh, the bullets move? Well, maybe it's ether.
Well, I don't know if it was post hoc or not. I mean, how do you know that they didn't know that there was a 24-hour sun when they worked that into the model?
You think Eratosthenes went to Antarctica?
Well, that's the thing, is that Eratosthenes didn't come up with the model.
I mean, we already had globes, dude, on the desk. We had the shape and we had the tilt that was locked in.
You had the idea of it.
Yeah,
but I would say that there are some.
And then when we explored the Earth, it matches exactly to that. Everything we see on the Earth always matches the globe story, and the globe story is really old. Before we found all the things, we're not having to. We've never had to change the story. The story is the story.
Yes, the story's changed a lot, bro.
You're going to have to go to dark matter and stuff like that, and you're going to have to go
to the sun. Like they changed the distance from the sun like completely over the years.
We've had refined measurements, but the idea that the sun is out there lighting us up and we're rotating and going around it, that didn't change. That's the story. We have to refine some of the distances. We've refined our understanding of the exact locations, but the story was the story. The idea is the idea. The globe tilted, rotating. Like that hasn't had to change.
I don't think it's productive for us to like argue about whether they did or didn't know one thing at a certain time, because neither of us can really know what they did or didn't know, and how much of that's been put into our history to make it seem like a longer belief than it was, and we can't really know that for sure. But as far as debunking the globe, let me just ask you this: if we're not on a spinning ball, you really want to know, right? You want to know. You'd want to know.
Yeah, I would.
Or do you just want to believe?
If my parents aren't my parents, I'd want to know that too.
Seems like you really still want to believe it more so than want to know if it's fake or not.
Why? Why would I want to believe something that was false?
Well, I know. I'm just saying because that's what we have. That's the decision you have to make when you go into the more deeper, inquisitive areas of all these things lining up, and you'll find out that they don't have a model that works, right? You have a kinematic concept of the model of all the orbits and everything. You have no dynamics to it whatsoever. You'll find things that make it impossible for it to be a globe. Impossible.
No, it's according to you, but no, I think that's just something you're saying. And what I'll find is every time that I talk to flat earthers, what I have is they don't understand photography and they don't understand physics, and they talk a big game. But I don't think you're right.
Well, I know you assume that.
You're going to bring up the three-body problem. You're going to bring up dark matter and dark energy or something.
But there's a lot to this, bro. So if you really want to know, you're going to have to do a lot more research. That's all I'm saying.
Look, I don't need to know how exactly everything works. I'm not actually that fascinated in it. But if you want to try to FUD post on it and bring in fear and uncertainty and doubt into the conversation, and then try to convince me that there's a reason to doubt it, like you're going to have to do harder work. But the thing you're doing does work on a lot of people. It just doesn't work on me for some reason. And so the thing is, like, you want to convince me my mom's not my mom. And it's like, I got pictures of her holding me in the hospital.
That's basically what it is. You're right. It's crazy. It is like you find out you've been adopted and you were never told that. You could, I mean, some people.
But then I got somebody coming and telling me, and I'm like, what you're telling me sounds like bullshit, though. It's not that I'm actually just. Black. I mean, I do love my mom.
You could be like the blackest African with white parents, and this is the way we see Glovers. Like a lot of times, it's just so obvious that they could be you could tell them that, and it could be like the blackest African and have white parents and still think you're bullshitting them because they want to believe that's their parents. And a lot of
Yeah,
people
that's
want to believe it's a globe so bad they act like defense attorneys for the globe and make up reasons that are very, very far fetched just to keep their belief. Which I think you do a little
see, and
bit.
I see it the opposite. I see it the opposite. I see it as like you're a person who has come to hate your dad, and your dad is NASA, and because you found out that your dad, like you've come to believe that your dad cheated on your mom, and you're like, fuck you, dad. And now you've taken that anger all the way to the point. It's like, you're not even my real dad. And I've proven it. And he's like, yes, I am. I'm your dad. Just knock it off. And you're like, no, I think you're lying. I think somebody else fucked mom. And I'm actually the son of the mailman. And like, you're just like, hate your dad. And you need to chill out. It's like, okay,
Well,
you
yeah, but I
think that
think
they
that's
lied
one
to
of
you
the
about,
assumptions
you
to
really
get
think they lied about the moon landing. You're mad at Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. But honestly, you just need to chill out. We are actually on a globe, dog.
rid of. Well, I mean, you assume that Witsit must be lying about to try to convince people of something when you first met him and that when he came on your show, and now you think you've seen that he actually has reasons to think that he's not a spinning ball that are based on scientific evidence, and it's not just about trying to convince people any longer, right? You see,
Well,
you've
actually, I
gotten
mean,
rid
it's
of
funny that you
gotten rid
brought
of that
Wits It Up.
assumption about him at least.
This is a sloppy thing. It's not really an argument. It's just funny that you went right there because Witsit has talked about on stream that his mom is nuts, he doesn't have a good relationship with her, and he's sort of a wigger that wants to be a rapper, and he's had an identity crisis the whole time. And I think Witsit is a poster child for this thing I'm talking about. He really wants to be
Oh,
special.
so now you're saying you think he believes that he's not he stopped believing he's on a spinning ball because he doesn't like his mom.
I
Are you
think it's
really making that
related
argument?
to wanting to like he's got like some sort of like who am I, what's going on, like real tenacious need to be special, or I don't know. I think there actually is, like I said, I think he believes what he's saying, but he's also willing to lie to make it true.
Well, that's the thing is that now that's totally different because he went into a lot of different details with you when I heard you guys talk in your later conversations recently, where it was like he understands exactly what the global uh, model claims, can probably steelman it better than you, understands exactly all of the claims, and then gives particular reasons why it doesn't add up. It's not just like some bias that he has to lie to people about because of some mom issue. That's really straw manning it, not what you think.
I
I
admitted
think
it
you're
up
just saying
front.
that
It's
right
not a good
now.
argument.
I don't think
I'm
you
not
think
making it as an argument. I was just saying I think it's funny that you went right to him because he sort of like exhibits that
yeah,
sort
but
of
that's kind of a
characteristic.
little bit of an offhanded, funny thing to say. That's not really what you
Well,
think.
Well, the reason why I said it though is that, and I've said many times, I'm actually more interested in flat earthers than flat earth because I'm talking about like this is a social issue. It's you guys are in these social circles, you're in these discussions, and I'm interested in the psychology of flat earthers and why they do this thing and the people behind it and why they even this whole big thing that's going down with Antarctica, why some people are having this massive reaction and they're saying that it was fake and they're exhibiting, like a lot of the flat earthers like Whitson and Jaron are going through a thing that we've been going through the whole time with flat earthers. They can't understand photography. They lie about the shadows and the directions, and they make up all sorts of things. This is probably in a studio. Well, that's what you guys have been saying about NASA the whole time. Oh, that's probably all
Right.
underwater. And it's like you're doing to each other now what you've been doing to us. And now it's like a taste of your own
To
medicine.
some degree, you're right about that. But I'd say that, like, just like with the studio stuff, like it happened to be a picture perfect day. Like I think they went there, and I think there's a 24-hour sun, and that wasn't a surprise to me because I was never like an ice ring Antarctica surrounds us on all sides type guy. I was saying this with a friend of mine back in the day that they're probably going to say Antarctica is its own continent, and they're going to try to say flat Earth is over because Antarctica is its own continent. But that doesn't mean that we're on a ball. It could still be surrounding land with Antarctica being its own continent. We could have two poles. There's all kinds of possibilities. But regardless of that, what you were
Yeah.
just saying is that like what I was just saying actually is it was such a perfect day, and it did look like wow, it was so picturesque. I could see someone being shown a video that's biased towards thinking it's fake, and think, oh yeah, it kind of does look fake. It's so picturesque with the mountains in the back, and then there's the
Yeah.
whole vape gate thing, and then all that other stuff that makes them convinced, right? Even though I know it was
Yeah.
real.
It looked a
But
little too good,
it
just like
didn't
that
take.
Tesla
But,
shot.
but but after 10 years of looking at it, I wouldn't be convinced that it's fake still after using my discernment and looking through everything with a fine-tooth comb and getting rid of all of assumptions that I could possibly get rid of because I really want to know, not because I want to think it was fake. And that's what you're still assuming about flat earthers. They want to think it's flat when you'll find, if you stick around long enough, that nobody really wants to be a flat earther. There's not anything anyone wants to volunteer for. It's something that they scratching and clawing at the globes to try to still stick with it.
I don't
It wasn't
believe
at all
that.
what you're assuming.
I don't
No, you
believe that,
can't
Dave.
right now because
Dude,
it doesn't make
Flat
any
Earth
sense
Dave
otherwise, right?
loves being a flat earther. He wants to be one 100%.
Yeah,
So-
he got
And you think that's
his
just
hat too
because of
There's a
him
ridiculous.
lot of
tricking
guys who
people because he
love
loves to
being
trick
flat
people?
earthers.
So you think he loves to trick people instead of actually thinking that there's no way that we're on a globe and no reasoning behind it whatsoever. It's all a scam.
No, I think he's talked himself into, just like Witsit. He's probably talked himself into that it's probably real. But I think he also gets duper's delight every time he says something that he knows is dubious and it's not even real, and he spins the truth and he makes up stories and stuff, and he says, "Oh, look at this! This is a story. This is a photo right from NASA. This is from NASA. It's not from NASA. It's just like some doctored image that he made up." And he just lies to people, and then he grins and rubs his little hands, and he's like, "They believed me." He gets off on it. He's a creep.
I think that we'd have to go into the details of what you're talking about for that, but regardless, I think there's controlled opposition on the flat Earth side. I'm in agreement with that part of it seeming like a psyop. I think they've used flat Earth as a psyop, but it only works because it's based on the truth. There's no way you're going to convince a bunch of people that if we're actually on a spinning ball, there would be so much evidence beyond reasonable evidence that there would be no way to fool people into thinking we're stationary and level if we were actually on this extraordinary claim of the ball Earth.
No way.
There'd be beyond overwhelming evidence
There's millions of people who got
after 10 years would have to give into that.
Joseph Smith got golden tablets in the woods, and then the angels told him he needed to have multiple wives. And it's like, dude, the people believe that hook, line, and sinker. I talked to Black Hebrew Israelites who tell me that all the ancient Jews were actually black, and they believe that completely. That's a little bit more of
But
there's
that's not at all comparable. Flat Earth isn't a story about some guy that found a flat Earth tablet somewhere. Flat Earth is it's self-evident. It's something you can check for yourself every single day, every moment of the day. And your base axioms align with it. There's nothing self-evident about the globe. That's the story. The globe is the story. There's nothing at all confirming it in your own life at all. Nothing about it at all that makes you think you're on a spinning ball. That's the story. That's the extraordinary claim. Otherwise, you're just on a stationary plane like it seems to everybody.
Sunsets.
Dave, he believes the story 100%, so he thinks all the pictures are real from outer space. So everything he sees is sort of confirming what he thinks is real. So
yeah,
but it's nothing self-evident. Nothing he can confirm for himself. So
yeah, I'm just too dumb to understand how a sunset works. Is really what it comes down to. Is like when this I don't understand. It's like I don't understand perspective. It's actually going far away, and I just can't wrap my head around that.
Yeah, can I just say before I leave, because I'm going to get off. It's late here. The sun was never for maybe a year, maybe more, but certainly in the last 6 months, building up to the final experiment, quote unquote, the sun didn't work for me on the sort of model that had been pre-given. This is what it could be, the sort of speculative AE layout. The sun was problematic for me. Full stop. I mean, it doesn't change angular size for a start. What we talk about.
If it does, it's like a pixel or two. It doesn't change anywhere near the amount that it would if it was actually going thousands of miles away.
Yeah, and not just that, the way it rises and sets in Australia. There's loads of things that didn't sit well with me at all about the sun. So the way I looked at it, it's kind of exciting to think, there might be something else that comes out of it. I don't look, as I said earlier, if we're just going from observations of the sky, globe. You know what I mean? It's just so much easier. Occam's razor, globe. I totally get that. That makes a lot of sense. But it might not be as well. So I'd like to see if somebody can put something forward. I can't fathom how the sun could work over a planar surface now, quite frankly. And so I'm kind of excited to see. But like I said, it didn't work before for me. So I was thinking about it in terms of a dartboard, concentric circles. And I was just thinking about it like that for a long time before they went. And I was like, this doesn't work. It just doesn't work for me. So now I know it definitely doesn't work. So yeah, it's exciting times. It's great.
Yeah, admittedly, it's almost as if the person, if this was designed right, and we're on a stationary Earth with the sky moving the way it does, it's almost as if it would have to be like they were trying to trick us into thinking it could be a ball, right? Almost as if it was designed that way. But then when you do look at some of these things with perspective, you can zoom back in when the sun looks like it's set, then you can see the full sun again. So you see that's absolutely a factor, regardless if you think the sun then still goes behind the ball. Perspective does play a factor in how we see the sun.
Wait,
It's
sorry,
only a
sorry,
factor
Dave.
of
Wait, one
photography.
sec. I know I said I was getting off, but what did you just say? There's a video zooming back into the sun. if you could post that, I'd love to see it. Don't you mean when
Yeah, I
they
have it.
go up that
I
high
wasn't
Actually,
building?
I'm
interested.
used on. I'll have to grab it. I'll have to grab it from Shane. But
Yeah,
yeah,
if you're changing
it
altitude,
looks like it's
for
setting.
sure.
It looks like it's setting. It looks like it's behind the horizon, and then you can zoom in and see the
Looks
full
like.
bottom of it again.
Yes, because the flare, the glare coming off the sun, part of that is obscured, and then when you zoom in, you see the actual sun itself hasn't set yet. That's all you see.
But if you zoom in
Well,
during
regardless
night,
of the reason. Yeah.
but if you zoom in at night, it doesn't come back, does it?
Ever.
But when do you see the sun at night?
No, you can never wait until the sun has disappeared and then zoom in and you see it again.
Well, but then there's reasons for that though. It's not like Flat Earth doesn't have a reason for that. First of all, the angular size change is because you can only see so far, and the sun is only so far away, right? And then you're not gonna have much of an angular size change, even though people have recorded that there is somewhat of an angular size change.
That doesn't make any sense, man.
Because
It's
of
like the fact that
atmospheric
makes sense to you is
magnifications.
discouraging. Like you can watch an airplane go so far away you can't see it anymore, and then you can zoom in and see the airplane again because the angular size of the airplane has gotten so small and it's like fit zoomed out of view. But then you zoom back in and it's there again. Anything that's gone too far away, it doesn't just like snuff the light out. Like a light source that's so strong that it's able to illuminate thousands and thousands of square miles, millions of square miles. I think like the day side of the planet is so like the amount of lumens is so intense. Like think about how much light it takes to light your room, or if you're like at a basketball court at night, you have these big beams, or if you're at a parking lot, there's tons and tons of lights. Think about how much light it takes to light up the whole world. It's such an intense light source, and you're telling me there's a point where it just vanishes because it just all of a sudden was a little too far. Like it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I understand why that doesn't make sense, and that's why this argument's gone on for 10 years. But it's not because flat earthers want to be flat earthers or just believe somebody on YouTube or all these other strawmen. I'm saying the first thing you need to do maybe is get rid of the assumptions that people are just believing it, because there's good reasons on both sides for all these explanations of things, right? And then the flat earthers have the base axioms and all of that, which is kind of a trump card in a lot of ways because you don't experience a spinning ball whatsoever, and you have to admit that. So that's why a lot of people see it as a stalemate. I think there's arguments that show that it cannot be a globe anymore. I don't want to go into the plane argument because people have heard it in here so many times, but I don't even think a plane could land on a spinning ball over the tangential gradient because the ground would be moving faster where they have to land than where they came from. And I could walk you through those steps if you wanted.
So it's all
but
right. See,
I know it sounds ridiculous, but I could walk you through it and
is
see exactly what I'm meaning.
No, I mean I
Okay,
know,
so when
but and then
someone
if I
jumps up,
if I
let me
showed
just
you the
ask you
problem
this.
with it, you'd just be like, I don't get it still, and that's where I go.
Okay,
Like, all right,
no,
I'm just talking to
that's
somebody who
not
can't
true.
comprehend.
I've been in this conversation like a long time and hours.
Let's do it. I want to do that with you. Could we?
Well, let me just ask you this step by step. When you jump up in the air, right, and you land back in the same spot, or if a helicopter goes up and hovers and then comes back down to the same spot, the reason we're given, right, that the helicopter is still in sync with the Earth and the rotation of the Earth is because of the conserved momentum from being on the ground. Do you understand that?
Yep.
All right. So because the helicopter was on the ground, moving at, let's say, 500 miles an hour eastward, it's still moving at 500 miles an hour eastward, even though the gauge doesn't show him he's moving at all. He's just moving with the Earth. Just like if you jumped up, you're moving with the Earth, and that's why you land at the same spot. You inherited the movement from being on the ground, right?
The helicopter is a little different because there's continual force input. The helicopter has a corrective element where it's balancing itself, it's steering. Helicopters don't just hover in one place without input. The pilot has to keep
right.
it. And it's also
you can use
hovering
GPS,
in the air, and the air is moving too.
GPS and all that, yeah. It could be using forces to try to stay in spot with the GPS coordinates it knows it needs to stay over, right? You could have that argument. Like on a hot air balloon, you'd say goes up and the ground isn't visually moving underneath the hot air balloon that you can see from the basket because of the conserved momentum from being on the ground. The argument,
Yeah.
right?
And hot air balloons do move. I mean, people have sailed around the world in it. Hot air balloons are suspended in they're subject to the movement of the air.
Right. But they wouldn't be like moving like north to south and then seeing the ground move west to east underneath them, right? Ever?
Well, they weren't in a long enough time period because they're part of a weather system that's rotating from the equator to the north, generally, because of the Coriolis effect. So yeah, the hot air balloon is being affected by Coriolis because the air is.
Right. Okay. So we need to separate Coriolis and the Coriolis effect from the argument in a minute. But regardless, so you're saying that you get up on a hot air balloon and you went south towards the equator, right? Let's say from like a 500 mile per hour rotation where you conserve that momentum, but eventually the ground's going to be moving west to east visibly underneath the hot air balloon that's going south towards the equator. I mean, they could just film that then, right? Show the Earth rotates.
West to east. There's going to be a deviation. Yeah, deviation. Yeah, a small deviation.
But you're saying you could visibly see it moving separately from the balloon, east to west, as the balloon goes.
The balloon is going with the air, and the air is moving in a Coriolis pattern.
Oh, okay. So you would never be able to see it. You're always in sync, is what you're saying.
You're always in sync with the air.
Right.
You only see the deviation if you track if you track the whole path of the balloon, you'll see that it went with the currents. Yeah.
But you would think if it was a little bit off, right? Like if the
also depending on elevation. I mean, like,
sync, but if you weren't in perfect sync with the Earth, you'd be able to see the east to west rotation moving separately as you go south, right? Because it wouldn't be.
It depends on what weather system that you're in, because high pressure systems and low pressure systems go different directions. So it really just depends.
Right. Well, regardless, but you're saying there's a possibility that we could prove the Earth moves from putting a camera on a basket on a hot air balloon, and because it's headed dead reckoning south, and it's not in sync with the Earth perfectly because the atmosphere is not even claimed to be in lockstep, right? So there would be a point where you could see this west to east rotation of the ground separately going sideways underneath the balloon then, right?
No, what you're saying is absurd.
Well, they don't claim that the atmosphere is in lockstep with the Earth. In fact, they say that
the balloon is in the weather system, sir. The weather system is, right. Sir, the wind is blowing the balloon. It's going to go where the wind is blowing.
Well, no, you can aim it with a different techniques. You know, you can't. It doesn't like. It's not like the hot air balloon is just a victim of the wind. It can. They have to be able to aim it, otherwise they can never go anywhere and land where they want to land.
How do they do that?
You go up and you rise it up and down, and you find currents that blow
exactly.
So
it's going with wherever the wind is blowing. You just pick the current. You just find the lane.
Well, there's waiting. Regardless of that, but my point is that you're saying that the balloon would never be able to see this east to west or west to east rotation. Never. It would always be in perfect sync with the ground. That's what you're saying.
How strong does the wind have to be?
Balloons do not go up and then land right where they took off from ever. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. Let me just ask you this. You know that they do not claim that the atmosphere is in lockstep with the Earth. And in fact, the dynamic weather system that we have, they claim is partly due to the fact that the atmosphere isn't in sync with the ground, right? That's where we get all of these weather dynamic effects, right?
Yep.
So the atmosphere is not in sync with the ground. Therefore, you can't claim that it would make the balloon in sync with the ground because it's not in sync already.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
No, what I'm saying is the atmosphere is not in lockstep. So it can never make the balloon or helicopter or plane in lockstep. And the plane would have to be in perfect lockstep to land as if it's stationary.
No, it wouldn't.
Really?
Can I ask a question?
No, it wouldn't.
Wait, hold on. No one buddy. And I want to talk about this big tech real quick. You have to get this straight. The plane lands on the runway at 1,000-mile-an-hour runway, right? Because it's moving. It went to the equator, started at 500. It only had conserved momentum at 500. It flew to the equator. Now it needs to be moving eastward with the rotation in perfect lockstep at 1,000 miles an hour, twice as fast as where it started from, right? And the pilot has no idea about that. The plane just has to be moving with the air in perfect lockstep, even though there's winds going in the opposite direction at unpredictable rates in every single direction, right? So those winds are also pushing him, right? He could have no path, no destination, just a kamikaze pilot doing circles all over the place, going from one latitude to another latitude, and then landing wherever he wants. But the ground where he's landing wherever he picks the little landing area that he happens to see and try to land in, he's got to be in perfect lockstep with the ground now moving twice as fast as where he took off from. And you have to believe that the air carried the plane eastward twice as fast, accelerated it up to 1,000 miles an hour without any gauge or any the pilot knowing anything about that. In fact, he could be going west southwest.
Dude, you lost me. I don't know what the. I mean, I'm not gonna. I don't know what the fudge you're even
pilot
saying
has
at this
to
point.
land
It's
on the
so
Earth
weird.
as if it's stationary, right? The
No.
ground is moving at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, as opposed to 500 where the plane took off from, because we have a tangential gradient. It moves fastest at the equator, 1,000 miles an hour. It tapers up to 0, they say, at the pole, right? So when you take off, you only have the 500 miles per hour conserved momentum you took off from. Then the plane has to be moving 1,000 miles an hour when it lands to be in sync with the Earth.
But all along, you've had continual forces acting on changing the trajectory of the plane all along. So you've had the motors, and you've had the wings, and you've had the
all those things.
So you've changed it's not a linear aircraft. It's a non-linear flight trajectory. It's basically, it's like, dude, it's like saying that if a surfer launches off of a wave and that wave moves, he can't land on it. It's like, yes, he can. He just has to aim. That's all he has to do is aim.
That's totally different. That's totally non sequitur, because he can land on the water wherever the water is.
But and that's what he does. That's what the airplane does. He lands on the land wherever the land is.
No, well, not if it's moving twice as fast eastward as where he took off from. He needs to be moving twice as fast eastward also.
But he's matched himself to the ground when he gets there, dude.
Okay, but listen. The pilot doesn't do any of that, right? He has no idea about the eastward rotation. He just treats it as stationary and level the whole time. There's no
he doesn't. No, he doesn't.
trying to catch up with the Earth.
There's nothing at all the pilot does. Concern himself with that. There's no reason for him to concern himself with that.
Well, only if it's not moving. But if it were moving, he would.
Even if it's moving, there's still no reason. Dude, the water under the surface.
Why wouldn't there be?
All he has to do is aim.
Why wouldn't there? Wait. If the plane literally needs to be going twice as fast eastward, no matter which way it's directed, no matter which way he flies, he could be flying against the spin, right? Going the opposite, west southwest towards the equator, right? Why would he not have to be concerned with the plane needing to be in sync with a ground that's moving twice as fast as where he took off from? He's got no path. He's not correcting for any path. He's not going to any destination. But the plane needs to be moving backwards.
Your question makes no sense. You're just having like
a
mental malfunction.
You don't get it. No, you don't get it.
There. Like I hear what you're saying and I hear what you're getting at, but you're just having
then you have to explain it. No, wait. So you don't realize the ground would be moving.
I already explained it. The explanation is this: he either throttles up or throttles down to choose the speed over the ground that he needs. And then when he's approaching for the landing, he chooses his speed and he goes based on elevation. And I'm going to start de-elevating from here, and I'm going to de-elevate from here, and I'm de-elevate, and I'm going to get my ground speed just right and my elevation right and his trajectory just right. And he just lines up with the runway and goes and lands on the runway. That's all. Like, there's no worrying about the rotation of the Earth.
But yeah, right, because it's stationary. If it was rotating, right,
non-sequitur.
There's nothing about it. Wait, what you're saying, what you just described, is him landing on a stationary Earth. He's not at all thinking about lining up with the rotation and being in line with this runway that's angled a certain way and moving twice as fast eastward. None of that is all his concern. He never has to worry about that.
And you know why, right? Because he's flying in air that's also going with the planet.
Right, but it's not in lockstep, and the plane would have to be in perfect lockstep.
It's not in perfect lockstep.
Well, no, it's not a lockstep. It has to be in such perfect lockstep.
Yeah, he compensates for wind. He steers into the wind. The wind is pushing him all around. He's dealing with that.
Yeah, so you're saying the wind pushes him around.
Wind and air.
What is it? Yeah, what's the air? If the air pushes him in one direction, then what about the wind pushing him in the opposite direction?
You think wind and air are different things? What is wind made of?
Well, you're saying they're different things. You're saying the air is going to make him in lockstep, even if we have very heavy westward winds the whole time, pushing him in the opposite direction. So what's
he's
the wind
have to compensate
to
for that with the stick that he steers with, dude. He compensates for that. So yeah, he's compensating.
No, he doesn't have to compensate at all.
Isn't that what I'm saying? Hold on, guys. Hold on.
He could be a kamikaze pilot. He could be a kamikaze pilot with no path. He's not correcting for anything. He's just joyriding, right? Headed generally west-southwest. He has no course to correct for whatsoever. But you're believing that the air / wind, because that's what moving air pushing a plane is called, is one wind, right? That's a wind. So you're saying the winds are pushing him completely in lockstep with the Earth eastward to accelerate the plane to be twice as fast, so he's in almost lockstep, which isn't good enough, by the way, with the runway that he's landing on treating it stationary. You're saying the wind only goes eastward, but winds go in all directions. So that it makes no, it doesn't work, bro.
It's just
The
like a
wind's going
river,
all
just like
directions?
a river and water coming down a river. The entire body of water is moving down the river, but you still have currents that flow in all different directions in that body of water that's moving in a general direction. The air
Again, it's a
works
non
just the
sequitur.
same way, and it's just like a motorboat on the river. That's the
Well,
same as the
you could think
airplane.
of it that way. That's the way you keep yourself convinced, I argue. But there's viscosity to water, right? You're never in lockstep because of a current that's moving the boat. There's all kinds of things that could make the boat less in lockstep or more in lockstep or more moving with the current. You've got viscosity and all kinds of things, and you never have
Dude,
a flow that's overpowering that, right, in the opposite direction upstream. You don't have those forces that you're dealing with. You're talking about a pilot that's dealing with westward winds that are not even, you don't even hear it. You don't even feel any eastward winds the whole time. You have westward winds only the whole
eastward
time.
winds.
But you're saying the air is moving him still eastward regardless of those westward winds.
No.
Yeah, it would have to be twice as fast eastward, bro.
You think the air is moving? I mean, I'm not going to be. If I was
No,
rude,
I
I
think
would just
the
call you
Earth
retarded
is
and move on. But
stationary.
I'm just going to
The
like
Earth
say,
is stationary, and the only way the pilot can treat the runway is stationary when he lands, if it's moving twice as fast without any compensation on his part, without him doing anything.
we're
When
just
he gets
looping,
there, he
bro. You're
lands
just
as
like
if
saying
it's
the same thing
stationary.
over and over
It
again. It
would be
doesn't make any
literally be
sense.
moving twice as fast. If you get this argument, you'll see what I mean, but you're not getting it yet.
Yeah, you're gonna. It doesn't. There's nothing to it, bro.
You know it. You know
You're
it's
saying
1,000
there's.
miles an hour to the equator, right? It's twice as fast as where he took off from. Can you acknowledge that at least?
Yeah.
Okay. So how does a plane go twice as fast eastward?
What?
How is the plane in sync with 1,000-mile-an-hour landing strip when where he took off from only had the conserved momentum of 500? How is the plane moving eastward with the Earth so much in lockstep that he could treat the Earth as stationary when it's moving 1,000 miles an hour when he only had the conserved momentum of taking off at a 500 mile per hour latitude? What causes it to be in sync?
The accelerator pedal.
No, he's going west-southwest against the spin, and the pilot has no idea. He's never told to correct for any kind of rotation of the Earth. This is not in the training book. He just treats the Earth as stationary. He's going in the opposite direction. That's where he's propelling.
Yeah, all he has to do is maintain a heading, man, and that's it.
Right, because the Earth is stationary. Otherwise,
non
it
sequitur.
wouldn't be in sync. Well, the Earth would be moving twice as fast. So I'm saying he maintains a heading doesn't answer how the plane is moving eastward to be in sync with 1,000 miles an hour runway. It has to be going eastward now, 1,000 miles an hour.
Airplanes don't fly in straight lines, my dude. They don't have.
I never said that.
They're not fixed. They're not fired like a bullet. They adjust, man.
Yeah, they adjust for what? Rotation? You're saying they adjust for the rotation of the Earth?
Well, also the
They adjust their
atmosphere and the
heading.
Earth, the atmosphere and the Earth is spinning together, so it's as if the Earth isn't spinning at all. You don't have to account for any differences because the atmosphere and the ground spins together. So it's
And that's
as
the
if
kinematic
it's not
concept.
moving at all. And then you
But
just fly through it.
the atmosphere, wait, the atmosphere is not even said to be in lockstep with the Earth. That's what creates the dynamic weather patterns that we have, according to the globe model.
It's very
so
close.
the atmosphere is not.
The
It doesn't
difference
matter
is
how
very
close you think of
small
it. It doesn't matter. How do you know how small it is?
because we measure it.
Oh, you do? You think there's a measurement of the atmosphere compared to the Earth movement that we can look up right now? You think that exists?
I think it does because I think I looked it up wrong one time. Am I wrong?
Well, that would be interesting to find out. But you can't ever measure the atmosphere as a whole.
The jet engines
have
on
no
airplanes. The jet engines on airplanes are powerful enough to overcome any of the different winds that you encounter.
Sure,
while you're
even
flying.
the wind that's trying to push it to be in sync, right? It could overcome the wind
any
that's
of the
trying to
winds
keep
that
it.
you think
So you're
is
saying
out
the
of
plane
sync.
could overcome this eastward wind that pushes it to be twice as fast sideways or backwards, it could overcome that. So it'd be completely.
doesn't exist.
So if it
doesn't
can overcome the
happen.
winds, it could be completely out of sync. It could be.
There's no-
We just take a camera and
Oh
show
my
the
God.
Earth moving twice as fast. If your engines are overpowering everything that's pushing the plane, it could overpower this atmosphere that supposedly makes it go twice as fast eastward, regardless if there's westward or northward or southward winds. Right?
That
You can't
doesn't
separate the air
happen.
from the winds. You can't
That
separate the air from the winds
doesn't
to begin with.
happen because the atmosphere and the ground
Bro.
turn
The wind,
together.
there's not
They're
1,000
not in
miles
lockstep.
more wind
I mean,
at
hold
the
on. The
equator.
air in the atmosphere is not said to be in lockstep anyway. And even if it were, you got winds moving in all directions, so it would never move the plane perfectly in sync every time. Because you got winds going the opposite direction.
And the engines on the plane are powerful enough to overcome that lockstep that you're hung
Great. So you
on.
can show the Earth rotating then. If it's it's
No.
overcoming this lockstep that you imagine that's not even a lockstep. It's not a lockstep to begin
I'm
with.
gonna
You
go back
don't
on
even
mute.
have the atmosphere moving
You're on
in
your own,
lockstep
brother.
enough to make the plane seem in lockstep. And you have winds going the opposite direction. So you're not going to be able to, you're just imagining it and subtracting it kinematically in your mind, saying, okay, well, if it's moving faster at the equator, then the air must have made the plane go faster, even though the pilot had no idea that that happened. And in fact, it's carrying the plane as it circles the airport, right? And it has to circle many, many times. He's waiting for the clearing to land, and he's circling, but the wind, air / whatever you want to call it, is keeping the plane moving faster eastward than where it started off from, even though it's going only 100 miles an hour in a small little circle around the airport. But somehow the air is carrying it perfectly in sync, still eastward faster. That is crazy to even imagine being possible. And then another crazy thing to actually put the dynamics to it. And then you'll be like, wait a minute, that's not happening. If the air is carrying the plane eastward as it's flying westward, southward, northward, and going in circles, it's not also being carried by the air with the rotation of the Earth, so that it stays as if the Earth is stationary below. The only way that ground is stationary when the ground is moving twice as fast as where he took off from is because it's actually stationary, not because it's as if or any of these other kind of estimation words. Close enough. There's no close enough. You need that. These are people's lives in the hands of the pilot. And if the pilot's not taught anything about this correction for rotation, he's never taught anything about, with this eastward twice as fast acceleration that would have to occur. You just have to imagine it happen because you're in the air. And even though there's winds that are the air pushing the plane all different directions, you have to also imagine that overcoming that is this eastward rotation of air that also pushes the plane, but we don't want to call it a wind, because if we call it a wind, then we have westward winds that are counteracting it, and it's just as good as any other wind. He could have no target. He could have no path whatsoever that he's following. He's just a kamikaze pilot, and he can always land anywhere on the Earth as if it's stationary. And that's not because the air made him in sync with the Earth. Because
Dude, you got to spare us. Dude. We got to move on from this. You just sound. I mean, like, I don't want to be offensive, so I just don't even tell you. You sound like you just sound crazy. Like,
okay, I get a little overboard with this, right? Because I know I'm right, but you have no reply to it.
Well, there's nothing to reply to. It doesn't make any sense.
Okay, how does the plane stay in sync? How is the plane going eastward twice as fast? Literally, in your mind, what's your answer?
It doesn't have to go eastward twice as fast.
Oh, okay. So the ground's not moving 1,000 miles an hour compared to the 500 where he took off from?
Oh my God. I've already told you, like, that he has a bunch of inputs on the plane. He just steers the thing. He takes a heading and he gets there, and then he lines up for the runway once he's near it. That's like all they have to do. It's so easy.
Right. That is all they have to do.
You're saying there's a problem where there isn't one, and it's like, I don't know what to do with
well, you're not acknowledging the problem. You're saying you acknowledge it's 1,000 miles an hour.
No, you're inventing a problem that doesn't exist, and you're asking me to answer for it.
It doesn't exist. You're right, because we're stationary. But if it was a globe, it would exist. That's the point.
No, you're saying that there would be a problem on a globe where there wouldn't.
Well, you're saying that it doesn't move 1,000 miles an hour compared to the 500 where he took off from? You're saying the globe model is wrong then? I'm just saying what the globe model.
That. I'm just saying the problem that you think that would create, it doesn't.
Well, then why? You have to explain why there
I
wouldn't
don't
be
know.
a
You're
problem.
just having a mental modeling issue. I don't know what's going on in your head that makes you think that
Well,
would
that's an
be
assumption on
a
your
thing.
part at this point, and I know that very well because I've been
That's the
through this
impression
argument
that
many
I'm
times.
reading. I'm the impression
Well,
I'm
that's the
receiving
assumption.
is that you're telling me that you're working this all out in your mind, and it seems problematic to you. And I'm going, no.
No, you've already realized the problem and you can't answer it. You went silent because you realized the ground would be moving twice as fast, and you have no
No, I went
explanation.
silent because
How
you're
the
just
plane
going
would be
on
going
and
twice.
on and on, and it's frustrating, and I'm tired of it. It's like I'm just hearing you.
Well, you want to run
tell
away
me.
from the argument because there is no answer. I understand that, but you really have to run away,
All right,
or you
now
have to
you
give
could
an
just
answer.
be sarcastic or whatever you're
No,
doing.
it's
like,
true.
no,
You
stop.
went silent when I said, "Is the ground not moving twice as fast as 500? If 1,000 at the
No, because I
equator?"
was
You
face
acknowledged that.
palming. You can't see me, but the point is, I
So
was
you're
like,
saying
oh
it's
my
not
god.
moving twice as fast.
So I think part of the answer
No,
is
that's
the
not what I'm
planes fly
saying.
in the
So you're
air,
putting
and it's the
like,
airspeed.
come on, knock it off, dude. Now you're just like kind of being a dick.
No, you acknowledged the problem and then acted like it wasn't one.
No, I acknowledge all the same facts that you're acknowledging, but you're saying then these facts make a problem, and I'm saying no, they don't. You're saying no, if it was like this would happen. And I'm saying no, it wouldn't.
All right, let me just end with this then. If the plane weren't in sync, right? Like say the plane needs to be moving faster eastward, right? Regardless of which direction it's going, right? And the runway is moving out left to right, like we were talking about with the balloon, right? And he gets there and the runway is moving faster eastward than the plane is going, but he's aimed the opposite direction. So now he's got to try to get the plane going backwards to be in sync with the runway that he always treats as stationary.
Dude, you're doing
You
it
see
again.
that why that would be a problem? Let's say that your magical answer to this that you haven't given yet exists and it works, right? But if that didn't work, whatever your answer was that you never gave, let's say that wasn't there was no answer, then there would be a problem. You can see that, right? Because the runway is moving faster eastward than the plane is moving eastward, and the plane is aimed in another direction, and he's flying in circles around the airport. But
You know, planes can accelerate, right? So that literally solves the whole problem. They can accelerate.
I think Matthew wanted to jump in.
They just have to expend some fuel to match the speed. That's all they do.
Yeah, I was just saying that airspeed is probably more relevant because planes fly in air, and so what the ground is doing is sort of a separate question.
Yeah, that's it, man. They just have to fly through the air and pick the speed, and the ground speed is a thing that they match using the gas pedal. And it's like a problem solved. They have a fucking jet on them. And then they get to the place, and then they line up with the thing, and then they land on it. It's like you could do that on a globe, bro. Boats can navigate on moving water. They can navigate on a river. It's like the fact that the water's moving doesn't mean that boats can't get to the dock. They can.
Yeah,
They
but
just
the
match
boats
the
don't need to
speed.
treat that. There's viscosity. The boats don't need to treat the surface of the water as if it weren't moving.
Neither do jets.
Well, they do. They do that. That's all they do is they
They don't
treat the
need
earth
to,
as if it's not moving. Well, they have to because that's how they land and how they're trained to land.
because it's not moving relative to them. They're moving with it.
Right. But it would be
Because they've
moving twice as
matched
fast as
themselves
where the
to
plane
it
took
using
off
the
from.
accelerator. They've steered
But wait a
themselves
minute,
into a
you
position where
said-
it's matched.
Yeah,
when they
but they
land.
do not. No, wait, hold on, wait. You have to get rid of that first because the pilot never steers the plane to try to match the rotation.
Well, he
Never.
steers the plane
The
according
pilot
to the
never
geography.
accelerates the plane to keep up with the earth ever.
He does.
No, he doesn't.
Oh,
Another
God.
consideration.
New perspective.
Your only way of thinking of this. Your only
The
way
way
of
that
thinking of this
it's-
is that
bro.
the air moves with the earth.
You
So it
just
doesn't
really
matter
want this
where
to
the
be
pilot
true, and you're
aims.
just
he does.
Wait, hold on, wait. This is a point that I said I was gonna walk you through it, and now you're being walked through it, and you're resisting. The only way
I'm
that you
telling
guys
you it's
can
wrong. That's
somehow
not the same
think
as
of it.
resisting. I'm just
No,
disagreeing with
you said that wait, hold on. You said the plane accelerates to keep up with the earth, which anyone here will tell you is wrong. Right? The only argument on your side. No, the plane never accelerates to keep up with the earth. It only accelerates in one direction, one vector, west, east, north, south, wherever it wants to go. You have to believe the air carries the plane faster because the ground is moving faster. The air makes the plane go faster eastward, even if it's aimed in the opposite direction. It's making the plane go faster eastward, backwards, because the air is the only thing that you guys can at all try to grab onto when in the end with this argument. And the air is not said to be in lockstep anyway, so that doesn't even work. Plus, the air has winds pushing the plane in all directions, so that doesn't work on top of that. None of it works.
So let me try this. Oh no. boat and you're on a boat and you're on one side of the river and the river is going pretty fast, how do you get to the dock on the other side? What do you have to do?
All kinds of things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you have
that's
to
what a plane
stear.
does.
You have to steer at the dock and hit the gas.
Yeah. A plane
But the dock's
already
not
flies
moving.
through
The dock's not moving on the other side. You don't have to try to time it so you're syncing up with the dock.
A plane
but the
already has to
surface
move
under you
with
is.
wind. In high wind, how do planes fly when it's really high wind? It's the same thing. They're powered.
Yeah.
They're under full control, so they've got power and they've got the ability to change direction. And the other thing is that from one airport to another airport, the difference in whatever it is, latitude or rotational speed, if you want to say it's rotational speed, even if you're just going directly north, the speed change is very, very gradual. So it's not a
if they have 50 mile an hour side winds, do you think that they just go 50 miles an hour to the left, or don't they just steer into it?
Yeah, I don't think.
The thing is that we have to separate some of these concepts. And hey, big tech, real quick. Hey, Huge ass, right? Nice to see you again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
nice to see you.
I remember you. Nice to see you. You're always nice. We've talked about this before a little bit, but big tech, just listen to me talk with Red Cloud here about the argument a little bit, because you're not as familiar with the particulars.
No, I'm not.
It does have to be moving, right? Red Cloud, you realize that it would have to be moving twice as fast. It took off at 500, right? It only had that conserved momentum. By the time it gets to the equator, that landing strip will be literally moving at 1,000 miles an hour. Regardless of your answer for it, you have to agree that at least there would be a problem if the pilot wasn't moving in sync with the Earth that he treats as stationary. You acknowledge that at least, right?
Yeah, of course. But what I think.
So the pilot has to be moving eastward twice as fast, right? Pilot has he does nothing to make that happen, right? The pilot just treats the Earth as stationary. He never tries to make the plane go faster eastward to stay with the Earth rotation, right? Can you agree to that?
I'm trying to see what you're saying that wouldn't work with a plane on a rotating.
Well, I'm saying that it would have to be twice as fast eastward, Hugh. Right?
Okay, right.
That's
so if it took off at
the ground is moving twice as fast eastward, so the plane has to be moving twice as fast eastward. That's just 1 + 1 = 2.
Right, because it's if let's say he's on the equator, he's moving essentially 1,000 miles an hour tangential speed, right? He's on the Earth.
Yeah, but just stick with my scenario. He took off at 500 miles an hour latitude. That's all the conserved momentum he ever had, right? Now there's arguments that would go away soon after because of the winds and all the resistance and all the other things. So thinking that he's moving 500 miles an hour eastward still when he gets to the 1,000-mile mark, I'll give you that. I'll give you all the conserved momentum, right, from the 500. But where's the extra 500 come?
Okay, I think I understand what you're saying. I think I understand what you're saying. I don't agree with what you're saying, but I think I understand it.
No, it's just the problem of the globe that you think there's an answer for. So it would be a problem unless you're answering, right?
Yeah, I think there's a reasonable answer.
Okay, so what's your answer?
There is.
What do you think accelerates the plane eastward 500 miles per hour or twice as fast by the time it gets there, so we could treat the landing strip as stationary?
I'm not sure, but give me a specific. Let's do something very, very specific. Let's say one airport to another.
I was specific. This is my scenario. Okay. 500 miles an hour. He needs to be moving twice as fast. What's wrong with that?
No. I mean,
very simple.
Yeah, geographically specific is what I mean. I mean, pick 2 airports.
No, there's no path. Nope. There's no path. He's a kamikaze pilot. He takes off from a 500 mile per hour latitude. He doesn't have any direction. He has no destination, but he's flying generally in a west-southwest direction. He's going to pick a spot to land when he feels like it. After he's done tons of circles all over the place, right? He could go back up north, way past where he took off from, and then back down south. He doesn't have any aim whatsoever, right? But somehow he's in perfect sync with 1,000 miles an hour surface when he gets there, regardless of anything he did or no path.
Hold on, there's an issue with your scenario in your perspective. There's an issue with your scenario. A kamikaze pilot isn't going to find a place to land. They're going to find a place to crash.
He does. Kamikaze pilot is going to find a landing, a clearing that he sees. He gets low enough to see that there's a field. He's going to land in the field wherever he wants. He has no idea where it is. But it's moving 1,000 miles an hour compared to the conserved momentum he had. He's going to be in sync. He's going to be in sync. We know he's not going to have a problem with the rotation of the Earth when he's landing, because it's always stationary relative to him.
Wait, new perspective. Why did you say kamikaze pilot specifically?
Because there's no path, Matthew. The way you guys try to argue this is he corrects for a path, so therefore the plane's accelerated, or he has
Yeah,
a destination. So we can
but
figure out how fast the plane would have to be on
kamikaze
each
pilots don't land. So
Okay, all right.
I'm saying he's a joyrider, right? He's got no destination. It would be kind of dangerous to land wherever he might see out the window and he gets close enough. It's just there's no destination and no path. So how is the plane moving twice as fast to be in sync with 1,000-mile-an-hour ground that he never had to conserve momentum to match? What's your answer for that? Air? No, air's not in lockstep, so the air doesn't work. Correction for path? No, there was no path, so you're not correcting for a path. There's no destination, but he's always going to be in sync.
How about you give him a chance to answer? Give him a chance to answer me. What's the answer globally?
Yeah, so the by analogy, if you're in a train and I toss you a Nerf ball, even though if we're going 60 miles an hour, I could probably toss it to you.
Okay, but that's one reference frame. That's one reference frame and one speed. I'm talking about he's 500 mile an hour latitude. He's got to be moving twice as fast by the time he gets there. If you tried to throw a ball to a person in a train going by you at a different speed, that'd be a totally different thing.
Yeah, but what if the train is turning or slowing down or speeding up? Then that would be similar.
You're still on the same reference. You know what's a non sequitur? We've been through this.
Imagine you're on the train, you're jumping off of a moving train onto the ground. You know, you're suddenly it's not going to work because you have
speeds.
momentum on the train.
You're talking about one reference frame. The plane's in a separate reference frame.
I think what you need to do
versus non-inertial.
I think what new perspective. I think what you probably want to do is
don't make this my problem. Just give the answer,
dude. Let me get through this.
Not my problem. I'm just saying, dude. I've been through this many times. It's not about me. Hold on. I want to make this clear. Do not make this about me not understanding something. I want the answer because we've all agreed it has to be moving twice as fast. What's your answer? Not a problem about me not learning what would happen because you have to teach me what would happen. Not a problem with me.
I would like the answer too. Listen, I would like the answer too, but new perspective, you got to leave some space for them to talk because you're kind of like, you're interrupting.
Yeah,
I've just been through this many times and I know where they try to go.
The problem here is I'm trying to figure out what your objection is, but because you keep talking, I can't actually free the space in my brain to sort of hear myself think.
The objection is there's two different speeds. So if I'm on a moving car in a moving car, and I jump out to sea, right? There's going to be I'm going to have a problem when I hit the ground that's stationary. It's a different speed, right?
Right.
But if I jumped out and started running, and the ground was moving at the same speed as like the car was or something like that, if it was on some like weird like one of those dyno belts, on the side or something like that, then all right, maybe I probably wouldn't be good because I'd be running, but still if I jumped out of a moving car to another moving car, hold on, how about this? I'm jumping out of a moving car to another moving car, same speed, no issue, right? It's the same speed.
Right.
But if I jump out and start running on the ground, it's a different. I'm limited by my feet, and it's a different speed, and I'm gonna have a problem. So if I'm at the equator and I take off and I have the momentum of going 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, and then I land somewhere else like a different latitude and it's half the speed, then I'm gonna have an issue, or vice versa, right? When does it slow down? When does it speed up?
What makes the plane in sync no matter what?
Right. What I would suggest is, I know, and you can object, and I'm just going to try to head it off. Don't object. Let me talk. What you probably want to do is seriously, instead of just a vague sort of idea of what might happen, pick two locations, and then because this is a question that actually can be answered scientifically. Because we know the speed of the Earth rotating, right? And we know if we were at LAX, how fast the Earth is rotating versus if you're taking off from Punta Arenas, right? We know those. We know what what the difference would be. That could be calculated.
Objection. So if you're moving towards quantifying the thing before even qualifying it. First, we have to qualify it. Okay, it doesn't matter the locations and stuff like that. But we just have to qualify what happens, the principle of it, and then we could flesh out a quantified scenario for you.
Let him finish what he's saying, though.
Then let me explain in this way. If this is a conversation that we've had before, it's probably because it's just being very, very vague. If you want to find the answer definitively, then you probably want to get a hard definitive example from one airport to another airport. And with, let's say the wind is not moving at all, there's no wind, and just assume there's no wind, and then calculate the difference in speeds from each airport, and then try to figure it out from there. I think the problem is because it's always been a very vague concept, a very vague idea. How could this happen? How could this happen? It can be calculated, can it not? Yes, it can be calculated. I couldn't calculate it right now in front of me, but it can be calculated. So I think this question can be answered. But it needs to be specific.
Okay, but an example is not an explanation. You understand that, right?
The example would be the way to explain the problem and solve the problem, is by giving an example and then saying, here's how it would be done. And that would contain a solution to the problem.
I think we could have an explanation without an example per se, but
I mean, if you're in school and you're saying, remember those stupid questions? I never got those in school, but in the States, apparently they did this sort of thing. A train leaves this station at this time, all that sort of stuff. That is what this question is. That's what this is. How could it land if it's going from one place and then there's a difference in the way that the speed the Earth is moving and then land at that place? So there's a difference. How could it still land when there's a speed difference? That's something that you could specifically answer and find out. That's what I'm going to say. But the answer has already been given, but it's not been accepted. So maybe we need to take it to the next level and figure something out where we can use actual numbers. Right? I think so.
No, I mean, I disagree with you. I think, we need an explanation. Okay. We need to have clarity about what's going on, about the concept of these differing speeds. And then we could have an example which, illustrates that concept that's been made clear, right? But
if someone then wants to